Welcome to the Blueprints Podcast. I'm Isabelle Brodigam here with Michael Flory, and on today's podcast, we're going to dive into a tool that's going to be instrumental in helping you stay sane in all the ups and downs on the entrepreneurial journey.
Well, and it's not just the entrepreneurial journey, but it's the journey of life that encompasses, depending on you as a person, it could be your family, it could be your business, it could be your hobbies, it could be injuries, whatever. And this tool has been very instrumental in my life of helping me begin to gain traction and not go crazy.
Yeah. So what is the tool that we're talking about today?
The tool is a tool that I learned early on when we first started implementing EOS into custom built. And what I mean by that is I was given the book, I had read the book, and then we hired an implementer to help us start to implement EOS into custom built, like an operating system. So how we run custom built, how we do meetings. And part of that implementation and part of what you learn along the journey, especially working with an EOS implementer, is you get tools that you can, start to use. And one of them was a tool he called Clarity Break. Simultaneously, I started attending Strategic Coach, and that's really kind of a cool side note as an entrepreneur and thinking abundance. One of the things I've learned from Dan is just really abundant thinking. And we actually first got into EOS, and the guy that started EOS, Gino Wickman, is a client who Dan is his coach. He was attending Strategic Coach and some of the things he learned. So the tool that Dan talks about is, he calls them the entrepreneurial time system, free focus and buffer days. And those free days are where I really believe this Clarity Break was kind of born out of. But it's an amazing tool as leaders that we need, as parents we need, as humans. We need time away from the demands of today.
Right. And so Clarity Break is really the title of this tool. But as you mentioned, within Clarity Break, there's even some further ways that you can start to think about your time and segment your life in free focus and buffer days.
Yeah.
And that's been instrumental for you.
Yep. And I think we'll pick that up on another episode. I think we can focus in on the Clarity Break and just giving people a real simple tool. But the concept is very, very intertwined. Holistically, having a free focus and a buffer entrepreneurial time system has been really freeing as well, and how I think about my free days and how I think about what a Clarity Break is. But the very simple definition of a Clarity Break is to take a period of time, could be an hour, could be 2 hours, it could be a whole 24-hour segment, and it could be 3 days. It's up to you. That's the beautiful thing about the EOS system, but also in particular Dan Sullivan and his coaching. He really leaves it up to the entrepreneur to figure it out, because he knows they're entrepreneurs. They're going to make things work for them. So this isn't like you have to do it this way, which is what I love about being an entrepreneur. I love about building an entrepreneurial company is that we give the context, and then we give tools, and then we allow our team to build off of those themselves. But the Clarity Break, let's say you take a 2-hour Clarity Break, just to give a quick example of one. So you're going to take a 2-hour Clarity Break. You're going to take 2 hours out of your normal workday, right? And all of us have more tasks to do in a day than we have time.
Yes.
I mean, at our company, we get to the end of the day and we got more to-dos that didn't get done. There's more ideas that we want to implement. There's just so much, right? And that Clarity Break is at a moment in your time as a human being for you to go and be human and to start to write down all of your thoughts, whatever comes to your mind. And so it's a blank sheet of paper. It's you, a pencil, a pen, and just your mind. And you're able to just start writing and journaling. I don't necessarily always like the word journaling, because that repulses some people, but just a blank piece of paper to be able to start to write and download all of your thoughts down onto a piece of paper. And when I do it, sometimes it'll be pictures. Sometimes I'll draw a mind map. A lot of people will be visual in mind map. So I'll draw a mind map and I'll start talking about the business, and I'll have 10 things that I'm thinking about in the business. And then my personal health, I might get into that. And then I might get into legacy, my family, and the things that I want to do there. And it will tie back into some other areas And as I go deeper and deeper, it's just putting them out there. It's not solving them. It's not fixing them, but it's just taking that clarity, that moment, and getting all your thoughts down on paper. And then at the end of it, I might come up with 2 or 3 action items based on what I thought about. Other times I'll just walk away feeling very light, kind of free, that I was able to download and one, to check out of the thing, turn my phone off. Don't check my text messages. That's a big part of this. Don't check your emails. Shut all of that off. You're intentionally going to a place where you, as a human being, can process what's going on inside of you, and it helps you get back in touch with yourself.
And I think what you said about the conditions of how you set up a clarity break is so important. So you're taking time out of your normal workday. You're sacrificing that, right? You're blocking this time out. You're being intentional. And then, like you said, you're shutting off all distractions, and it's just you, pen, paper, and your thoughts.
Yeah. Yep. And I once, a great leader that I spent a lot of time with for a period of time said to me that a lot of people talk about doing this, especially in some of the different circles that I've been a part of in the past and still am, different circles. But a lot of leaders will talk about getting away and taking time away. But the reality is, he said in this particular area that 1 out of maybe 100 would actually go and take time away. And I think that is the reality. Most entrepreneurs, most people, we allow life to happen to us rather than us stopping and saying, no, I'm going to take time. I'm going to make space for myself and to get that clarity. And then out of that clarity, you're calmer. What are some of the results of this? But you walk away with more peace. You were going to walk away with probably more questions.
Yeah.
Probably some clarity around an issue that you couldn't figure it out. And maybe it wasn't like you even sat down and tried to put it in a spreadsheet and figure it all out or chat GPT it, but it was more of just you thinking about these other parts of your life. And then all of a sudden things start to become clear. And that's kind of been my experience with doing these.
And for me, when I've done clarity breaks, I walk away with a lot of inspiration. I'm inspired as I organize my thoughts and I get everything out. I'm inspired to keep going, and I get refocused on what is actually really important to me.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes I find in my life, there's the analogy of you got to put your big rocks in first and then your medium rocks and then your sand, and it can all fit in a container. But if you do it backwards and do the sand first and then the big rocks, you're not going to fit everything in.
Right.
And so for me, clarity breaks have been instrumental in helping me redefine what my true priorities are.
Yeah.
So how often do you take a clarity break?
Boy, that's, it's different seasons, different rhythms. I don't have an exact formula for it. I usually know when I need one, but I think a good rule of thumb would be, every other week, maybe to get started, or once a week. If you were going to do shorter segments, maybe you could commit to an hour once a week of a clarity break. I have my other rhythms that have sort of a clarity break in them. My morning ritual. Michael Hyatt is a big fan of his. I've studied all his stuff and implemented a lot of his stuff. And he happens to be a student of Dan Sullivan's as well.
Yeah.
Dan was his coach. So a lot of Michael Hyatt's tools I've implemented in my life. But one of the things I think about is my morning ritual. What do I do when I get up? And I have it kind of mapped out. I don't always follow it the same every day, but there is solitude in that time for me. There's time for meditation. There's time for prayer. There's time for reflection. There's time for reading, all of that. But the clarity break is different because it's not in my morning when the world's not going on. I feel like the clarity break really works for me when it's in the middle of my day.
Yeah.
It's in the middle of when everybody wants something from
when everyone's
me.
calling you and all the problems are happening.
Or there's just all the to-dos that I got to get done. And when I shut that off, I think that's the big thing. Is it's the magic really is in you deciding that you're going to take control of that 2 hours and you're going to give it to just yourself and allow yourself to process that. I went through a season starting in end of 2017 where I actually went through a really difficult time. I had a head injury playing hockey, a sport that I love, and had a couple of games in a row where I got concussions, and it put me in a battle for a long time for getting back to being who I was, and some of these tools help. But during that season, I committed to 2 days out of the business. This was before I really knew about clarity breaks. I'd probably maybe read about them somewhere. I mean, Stephen Covey, you were talking about him earlier, the Big Rocks. I've read all of his books.
Yep.
Implemented those many years ago, some of his tools. But I was kind of forced, and there's typically in our lives, tragedy or big trials typically cause us to make changes that we wouldn't otherwise make, because change is challenging for humans. And but during that season, I took 2 days, and I would go and do an overnight retreat at a small retreat center and near our hometown, and got to sit in a small room with 4 walls, and I just had all of my notes and my papers. And at that time, I didn't really know that I was having a clarity break, because I didn't know what a clarity break was, but I was getting away and being with myself and processing my thoughts and emotions and feelings. And there's so many treasures that came from that time, so many journal entries and things that I'm still processing, so
Yeah.
If you commit to doing this, it's not like you're going to go and do it and you're going to check a box. I'm telling you that it's compound interest. These clarity breaks are compound interest. One time's not going to change your life. One time's not going to fix all your problems. One time's not going to be that. But if you start doing this and then you build a habit of it, and as a leader, you continue to do that, you're going to see long-term dividends that will be transforming for you, but also like in our business. I mean, you take clarity breaks. I don't think I've ever told you hey, you got to go take clarity breaks, but you've seen me take them. You've seen me model that, and you're doing that in your life as well. I mean, I do want my leaders to do it, because I know the power of it is one of the tools in the EOS tool bag. And so I think it's just something that we deprioritize, because again, it forces us to get outside of the day-to-day of our business and the day-to-day of our lives, our personal lives, our professional lives, and just sit with ourselves. And
Right.
that can be really scary for a lot of people. Silence can be really scary.
Yeah, silence is very challenging.
Yeah.
Especially, I think, for high performers and high-paced people.
Yep.
You live for the next big moment. You live for solving the problem, for helping people.
Yep.
And so just sitting there with yourself and your thoughts is transformational.
Yeah. Yep. I would highly recommend, if you haven't done it, start small. Just a couple of simple tips. Again, blank piece of paper, turn your phone off, turn your computer off. Those will just get in there and distract you in the middle of your clarity break. But commit to a 2-hour time slot during your busy day. Schedule it off just like you would a client appointment. I find that I'm always willing to show up for the appointments where there's other people that are involved, especially clients, especially moving the business forward and sales and being involved in that, or solving a big problem out on a job site. I'm always willing to do that, right? It's on my calendar. I got to be there. The pressure. Put yourself on your calendar. Put yourself first and see what happens. Commit to 2 hours. And then if you want to do an overnight at some point, there's other great tips, and we can get into that more in a future podcast.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we've got to break down this tool. We now have that out there. We hope that you guys implement this and utilize it. Again, for us, it's been transformational. I take a clarity break at least once a quarter, and I take at least 6 hours. Typically, it's on a Friday, end of week, so I can refresh.
Yeah.
And Michael, for you, I mean, you mentioned your morning routine. You do that, but you also intentionally take quarterly clarity breaks as well.
Yeah, typically monthly is what I shoot for, but once a week, man, you can block out an hour. You can block out an hour and do it. So give it a try, see what happens. Let us know. Would love to hear your stories and your journey as you begin to prioritize and take care of your health and well-being, and see how it not only transforms you as a person, but it's also going to transform your business and your people around you.